Oh, I just noticed that you added new pictures, the new fancy Cobra playing the saxophone on the sheet.
That's right. The ZBT, we use Google Docs. And at the top, when I
Oh,
do
I
them,
wasn't starting yet.
oh, okay. Yes, I thought, well, anyway,
Just kidding.
I did put good vibes photos at the top of the sheet because I feel like you see that it immediately puts you in a good mood. It's a
Yeah, so
puppy
you can
dog.
tell the difference. So you give a little behind the scenes here. When Kate and I are usually the ones that will kind of prepare the episodes. And when I do it, it's very plain at the top. I don't put up new pictures or anything. When Kate does it, there's like a golden retriever. There's this silver Russian gray cat. There's a cobra that is playing a saxophone. And there's an otter that's just chilling. And I think it's one of those otter that's chilling because you can't see it, Kate, but I think you probably didn't know. If you zoom in, that's the way that otter mamas will carry their babies whenever they're floating on the water.
Yep. It's just, I thought, let me find cute animals doing cute things. We open the sheet to start the show. It's a Friday episode. Puppies, kitties, snakes playing saxophone with sunglasses, otter. It's okay. Whatever the stories are, we're able to face it because we've had good vibes right off the bat. I hope everybody out there is getting ready for the weekend, having good vibes. You know what I mean?
No doubt about it. And we do got a big show ahead of us. We got 5 rounds in the magazine today. Round number 1, police in Thailand have arrested a self-touted holy man whose band of followers are said to have consumed his urine and phlegm as a cure for illness. As a result, we will be updating the safety brief for all those that are going to Thailand. Round number 2, the baby formula shortage is so bad right now that politicians are getting involved and commissaries on military bases around the globe are feeling the pinch. Round number 3, we found a 6-year-old who ran a marathon, and that actually might not be the best idea. I think it's one of those cases of good initiative, bad judgment by the parents, where you don't want your kid to be a pussy, but 26.2 miles at 6 years old might be just a touch much. Let's stick to relay races.
I was old Katie rabbit holes on this family and I fucking hate them. And I feel terrible for the kids. They're fucking terrible. They want to be YouTube parents.
I mean, even just doing like a mile run when you're in elementary school, a mile felt like forever. I mean, everybody did it and like you were fine. Even if you're one of the chubby kids, for the most part, you could get through the mile. Adding 25.2 more of those bad boys. I mean, grown adults, when they're not really training for a marathon and they go out and do it, you hear about them being in pain for like a week. Yeah.
I felt like I got hit by a car. I thought my nipples were going to fall off. And when we did the mile run in elementary school, remember it was the presidential fitness test?
Mm-hmm.
You would get like a letter from Bill Clinton if you did good enough. Whoopity-doo.
Yeah.
We did, my gym teacher, shout out Mrs. LePage, she would make it fun by having like funky stuff dangling from the trees along the way, cones. I remember one time I was going full speed. I was so fast. I jumped over a cone and doinked my vagina off really hard. Brutal.
Classic case of bruised vagina and the presidential fitness test. Classic Clinton, I tell you that.
I'm telling you, if it had been some other president, that wouldn't have happened.
No, on HW's watch, absolutely not.
I would have made it over the.
I think Jimmy Carter does a little cooter goofing too. Like, yeah.
Oh, I would have doinked a cone for sure.
Yeah.
Cones just stood taller back then.
Oh, they were all over the place. I mean, when I did the presidential fitness test, I always zeroed in on one event that I was going to crush everybody. I was getting ready for weeks for that sit and reach. I mean,
the sit and reach, man. Kids would blow out their knee tendons trying to
your knee tendons, your back. That's probably why like people like me and Big Cat had super bad back issues before you're 35, because you're trying to stun everybody else with the fucking sit and reach. Because it was, like how I don't remember what year it was, but I think around 2010, the Marine Corps shifted from doing like static warm-ups where you're just like doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to dynamic type of warm-ups.
Yeah.
We didn't do any type of warm-ups before we did any of this. And then you're stretching as far as you possibly can with your knees locked. That's just asking for problems.
Oh, absolutely. I remember my brother was more athletic than I was, and he was just better at everything, but he had a little touch of scoliosis. Mm-hmm. So I always remember stunting on him when it came to the V-sit and reach. That guy could barely get to his knees. It was a treat.
Oh, fucking Mississippi ass back.
Oh, candy cane head ass.
Oh, crooked letter I.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Round number 4.
Anyway.
Alex Horton of the Washington Post recently returned from Ukraine, We're going to get an update from him about all the events that are happening there on the ground. He actually went before the war kicked off, and he went back again and just got back last week. So he has some insights there. And finally, round number 5, a soldier sadly died after being attacked by a bear on base in Alaska. We're going to look at some of the other situations that soldiers in Alaska found themselves in. It's a wild place to be stationed whenever they recommend bring an AR-15 or some type of weapon out whenever you're taking your garbage out. That's a pretty intense spot to be. And all that today is going to be brought to you by our good friends at WhistlePig. If you haven't tried it yet, you need to try it. It is created with 100% rye whiskey. It's perfect for sipping and mixing. Actually, last night I made a delicious cocktail. I'm not normally a huge cocktail guy because typically they're way too sweet. Like any type, even an old fashioned, to me, it's too sweet. I don't like that. I don't like any type of really white wines. I might do like a Sauvignon Blanc or something like that if I'm having fish, but Moscato or anything sweet reds, I just don't like those types of drinks. Last night, my older kid really loves that Tropicana juice that's like banana, pineapple, and I think mango. Mm-hmm. I took a little bit of that, about 2 ounces of that, and then about 3 ounces of sparkling water and 2 ounces of the WhistlePig whiskey. Mm-hmm. Dude, it was fucking delightful because the juice was just enough to get a touch of sweetness, but it wasn't overbearing, and you could still really taste the whiskey.
I've been loving the rye smash. Actually, last night too. I normally don't drink on weeknights, but the pizza toy came out, and I was like, "You deserve."
You got to celebrate when the pizza toy comes out.
And the sun, we have like the way our porch faces. You get these great sunsets, and I was like, you know what? I got the baby down. I put on some tunes on the patio. I poured a WhistlePig rye smash. I had my dangly lights on. Mm-hmm. And I just had a lovely. It makes me feel like I can enjoy a nice cocktail without going to the bar. So yeah, WhistlePig all the way, man.
Those days when you're like, I think 34 and older, and you have a surprise nice evening that's kind of relaxing, and it came out of nowhere that you didn't. And you walk to the fridge, you're like, oh man, I think I'm gonna get me a little cocktail. I
literal thought. I stood there in the fridge and I said, I think I'm gonna treat myself. I'm gonna be real bad.
Absolute bad girl right now.
Yeah, I gotta treat yourself, be a bad girl, and get some whistle. I'm probably
I'm gonna put down my pocketbook, watch a couple Netflixes, and just relax and just dish.
That's what I did. I just sat out there and I dished. It was
you did dish. There's plenty of things to dish about over in Thailand right now. Every now and then there's a story that comes across the old news feed, and I'm like, we just absolutely have to talk about it. There's not a lot of military tie-ins here, but that's okay. We're just going to talk about the story regardless.
Some would argue that the military is a cult.
That is true. And I would say, what do you think? Rank the branches on cults. Like if you would say that it's a cult type of relationship.
I mean, the Marine Corps
easily number one. I mean, it's not even close.
The Air Force is like a peaceful, wacky cult where you're like, well, it's a goofy cult, but they're like a lovable cult,
I feel like I don't know if this is insulting or not, but the Air Force feels like high school with planes.
Yeah, I like that. And I like that analogy. Yes, definitely. The Air Force is band camp with planes. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And I say that with love.
It's not insulting at all. It just seems like they actually get along. Like even when I went and got stationed at the Air Force Base here for dog school, I would go in and I would see like 2 E6s, tech sergeants, and they would be calling each other by their first names. Marines never do that. Like at work, it's not rank, but it's at least last name. The idea of calling somebody by just their rank or first name to me was so foreign when I got there. I was like, these people are just fucking hanging out and back on the block.
Oh yeah. Well, because of the recent episode, I've had a ton of military women reaching out to me from every branch. And some of the women from the Air Force were like, man, it's not perfect here and different considerations of the states, but geez, we're way ahead of you guys, Marine Corps, in terms of just being treated just as basic
life things. Not even dealing with like huge issues like trans rights or abortion or anything like that. But even the small things, like when I got to the Air Force Base and walked into their base gym and there was towels that were available that you didn't have to bring your own. I was like, what? Like the attendant handed me, first of all, there was an attendant and they handed me a towel. I was like, this is the life. This is the reason why people join the Air Force instead of the Marine Corps. My mom was right.
King size candy bars at Manis in Kyrgyzstan, man. That blew my dick off.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. Anyway, where were we? Oh, cults.
And Marines are like, a spot of porridge for the poor, please.
Yes.
Please, anything.
Only a cult would get you duck walking in your underbritches.
Exactly right.
And we've all done that. Anyways, police in Thailand have arrested a self-touted holy man whose band of followers were said to have consumed his urine and phlegm as a cure for illnesses.
And I don't like the fact that they're calling him a self-proclaimed, self-touted holy man. Once you get people to drink or eat your shit and piss and phlegm, you're no longer a self-touted. You are a holy person. Like, if you can actually get people to do it, you've crossed that bridge from self-touted to other people are also touting you as a holy man.
Well, yes, I guess that's how cults work. But I mean, in order, I'm telling you, I would drink piss, but I almost feel like I would do piss and shit before phlegm. Phlegm grosses me out so fucking much. One time I was on the corner in New York City, and at a red light, like, people all scrunch, like, there's groups of people going across, and a bicyclist pulls up, stops, and he goes, he turns and hawks the biggest loogie ever right on me. If I had had a knife, I would have skinned my own body right then and there and walked away in just my bones. To this day, when I think about it, I get the spit coming up in my own mouth because it's so fucking. And he goes, "Oh, sorry," and he bikes off.
It's disgusting. Like, the idea of just phlegm is so gross. There is this woman that I occasionally see on the For You page on TikTok, and she was talking about her kid being super congested. She's like, I was hanging out with my kid, and I went with a family that wasn't really like my family. It was a friend's family. We were all hanging out. And my kid was being very fussy because they were congested. So I leaned down, and she's holding her baby. And she's like, I leaned down, sucked the snot out, and she redoes it to the child on the TikTok. And then she takes it and goes into the sink. And it's like this big old thing of kid snot. And I'm just thinking, why? One, I understand, like, if you're a parent and your kid is in pain, you will do almost anything to help them get over that pain.
Yeah.
But why would you put that on the internet? And two, we don't need the demonstration.
Yeah, we don't need the demonstration. I could see telling that story, but I don't need that. But you're right. That's the only person in the world whose phlegm I can deal with is my son's. And I've used the snot sucker on him multiple times. I haven't thought twice. It hasn't grossed me out. It's like, whatever.
You'll do that.
I don't
like,
care.
What is it called? Nose Frida?
The nose Frida. I do not give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, this guy, urine and phlegm, people eat it to cure their illnesses.
Imagine if Corman did this.
Come here.
You're on a hike, and you can just tell, like, hey there, fucking devil dog, come here.
They hold you like a baby.
Yeah, I hear that. Thanks, Doc. Oh, you got it. Yeah.
There's a hot Corman, and some guy Wendy peppercorns it. He's like, oh, I'm all congested, Doc. Anyway, the wee Nanra, age 75, was arrested. And I'll say it, I don't mean to be ageist. The older you get, the more disgusted I am by your fluids.
Oh, yeah. And this guy absolutely has yellow toenails.
Absolutely. The wee Nanra, age 75, was arrested on Sunday in his jungle dwelling in northeastern Thailand, according to the AP. Reuters video showed police placing a shirtless and bearded Thawi in a vehicle while his supporters tangled with officers. The Thai police also confirmed to the AP that they had found around 11 corpses believed to be his followers at the campsite. The Thai Inquirer reported that his campsite had been raided on local land encroachment charges and COVID-19 violations before the corpses were discovered.
I mean, imagine thinking that you're going there just for some COVID rule violation. You're like, these motherfuckers are eating piss, shit, and phlegm.
I'm sure the police were looking through trying to find a law that they were like, know somebody and you see the broken headlight and you're like, okay, I can pull them up. Anyway, according to reporting from the Bangkok Post, corpses had been placed in coffins while death certificates were found for only 5 of the bodies. Speaking to the AP, the provincial governor said around a dozen people were living with him at the time it was raided. It's quite disturbing to see that there are people who believe in such superstition, but this is not only about a personal belief anymore. We have dead bodies, and we're going to work with all agencies. Thai news site The Nation reported that Thawi claimed to be the father of all religions, according to the outlet. I feel like if that were true, there'd be more than 12 people hanging out there. I'm just saying. According to the outlet, a local celebrity shaman called Morpla had led law enforcement to the campsite, where authorities attempted to locate an 80-year-old woman who visited and never returned. I bet if you're another cult leader in the area, you're like,
oh, you're not
hear what that guy's
shit.
doing? Yeah, you hear what his cult's only eating toenails, but this guy over here.
But you probably bring in your number 2 if you're a cult leader and be like, why didn't we think about this Phlegm thing?
Right, but we're behind the times. The missing woman's daughter told The Nation that she heard Thawi's followers were instructed to consume urine, mucus, and feces to cure themselves of diseases. According to The Nation, his followers claimed to authorities during his arrest that they thought he was the Father and God, and they also admitted to consuming his urine and poop in front of the police. Excrement. I think excrement's a worse word than poop, to be honest with you.
And there
it's
you don't
more
be...
visual for some reason.
How do you feel about snot versus mucus?
Phlegm is the worst one to me.
I think phlegm, yeah.
Yeah, it goes snot, mucus, phlegm.
Especially if you say something like hawking it up.
Yeah, a loogie's up there is something. That's the biker hawked a loogie on me.
Hawking up some phlegm.
Ugh, gross. The incident has gone viral on social media, with netizens sharing their disgust against the cult's practices of consuming human waste. The Thai language hashtag father saw over 100,000 mentions. A snippet from TV shows a woman who appears to be a member of the cult saying that she did not detect any unpleasant odor while consuming the waste. There isn't even an odor, the woman remarked. Only those with a tainted mind may smell it.
I actually watched the video of her talking about this. Like she had just done it. And she's like smacking her mouth after eating poop. Like she had fucking peanut butter on the roof of her mouth. And she's like, it doesn't even smell or taste that bad. And they have the captions, and she smiles real big, and you see some of her teeth have like a little brown on it. And you're just like, this is fucking
I'll say this much: she would crush in a smoke pit on a Friday night.
Oh, crush!
She'd probably drink a whole
together. Get out of town.
She could probably eat a whole liter of dip.
She'd be like a cricket for $5.
She would make bank. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, pretty crazy. Not great. Not great. This led me to look up a couple other cults, the craziest cults of all time, which there are far too many. And the last one has a little bit of a military tie-in. But first, Hona Hana Sangpoigo. This is a modern Japanese sect that is the foot reading cult. The founder claims to be the reincarnation of both Jesus and Buddha.
That's and says strong group. If you could be both, it's a strong group.
If you could get both of those two together, my goodness, because I like the sound of that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like you're like Jesus. Okay. A lot of those are kind of strict. Buddha, though, pretty chill, man. I don't know. Anyways, you
mix in the miracles with Jesus and Buddha's chill vibes. That's pretty good, man.
Yeah. And it's a pretty good mix. Claims he could diagnose followers' problems simply by examining their feet, and that they would die if they weren't examined appropriately. According to his methods, traits like short toes indicated a short temper, and fat toes meant your life would be filled with good fortune. However, the whole ruse unraveled when followers fought back against the $900 fee he charged for each inspection. Yikes. Yeah.
Fun. I feel like $900 is pretty steep. I don't think that old JC and Buddha would be doing that. I think you charge $150 tops.
Even every believer has a price limit, I think. There's the Chen Tao cult, otherwise known as the True Way cult. It was formed by a former professor who was clearly insane. His beliefs included that the universe is 4.5 trillion years old, that our solar system was created by a nuclear war, and that we each have 3 souls, and that humanity has been rescued on 5 different occasions by God coming down in a saucer. Okay. However,
I don't.
I know you don't. I know you don't. I know you don't hate that. I know. I knew you were gonna. I was almost afraid to say it because I was like, I'm afraid he'll look it up and fall in.
I mean, this one is easily more believable than young Earth creationism. Like, I took a class on young Earth creationism when I was in seminary, and they were like, the Earth is only 6,000 years old. I was like, this is preposterous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Preposterous.
It's more believable. Bad news though. The 160 member group disbanded because he made a rookie cult leader mistake. He said a finite thing was going to happen, and then it didn't happen. He made a prophecy in 1998 saying that God would appear on a single TV channel in North America. I believe it was Channel 11. even if you didn't have cable, that at 12:01 a.m. on March 31st in 1998, God was going to pop on this TV.
Which
so
is
they
fucking
all were
stupid. You
they
should
were all
know.
hanging out, and
1998 at 12 o'clock. Come on, dude. That's obviously when what's that show that they would do? Girls Gone Wild. That infomercial for Girls Gone. You're not kicking Girls Gone Wild off of E Entertainment News at fucking 12 o'clock in 1998. Not
very
happening.
awkward to have the whole crew in there, and it doesn't happen, and you're standing there like, oh, well, the gig's up. We had a wacky run, didn't we? Thanks for the money.
I get no respect. God doesn't show up on one channel one time, and I get no respect.
And no respect. Just two more here that I'll read. The Freedomites, Saskatchewan, 1902.
Love it.
They fled Russia to escape persecution. They wind up in Canada. They believed in three things: communal living, nudity, and anarchy. Okay.
Buddy.
Okay. It sounds sick. They would do all nude public demonstrations to show opposition to material tendencies of society. And then they got a little out of hand. They started burning and bombing public buildings while naked. And I'll tell you, I've cooked bacon without a top on before. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be blowing things up in the nude.
Not. No.
We wore
blast panties. You want to be blown
panties.
when you're naked. You do not want to be blowing things up when you're naked.
Precisely.
But that's different. English is so fucking tough. Like that, the difference in that is just semantics, really. Like it's not a huge difference, but the difference between being blown and blown up is huge.
It is huge. You add one word to it, it's not fun anymore.
Even one letter.
Blown you is that sounds like a great college.
True.
Anyway, the final one, have you ever heard of the cult of John Frum?
I have not, no.
So this, in the islands of the South Pacific, it revolves around the image of an American World War II serviceman.
I take it back. I have. Somebody sent it to me just last week. Somebody sent it to me in a DM on Instagram. Yeah,
this is fascinating. Each year on the 15th of February, hundreds of people come to the tiny village of Lamacara from all over this little island to celebrate their devotion to their deity, their god, John Frum, F-R-U-M. These worshipers are described as members of a cargo cult, and there's cargo cults all over the South Pacific on these little islands. Cargo cults arose in villages during World War II after hundreds of thousands of American troops descended on these islands from the skies and the seas, bringing with them a seemingly endless bounty of supplies and material goods. Imagine that, though. You live on an island of like 100 people. You've never seen anyone else. And all of a sudden, there's a city of American troops there with anything from your wildest dreams, and you don't know the context of the war, nothing. You're just like, what the fuck is that?
And it said they blew their mind because a couple other things too. Like one, it was an African-American dude, it was a black dude that came and it blew them away. They had never seen a black person before. So they're like, whoa, what the fuck? He had like full combat battle rattle from World War II still on his person. So like a rifle and things with rounds. Whenever he fired it, they were like, oh my God, like it like blew up a coconut tree and shit like that. And they absolutely lose their minds. So now each year they have this huge parade to honor him and hoping that he comes back. And all of the men in the village will get dressed as closely as they can to John Frum. And they'll have these huge long sticks that are painted like the weapons from World War II. And they want him to come back. So they've been practicing for the last 75 years, essentially. He came one time and they're like, we need to get this guy back. We have to have parades and things like that to make sure that the spirits send him back to us. Spoiler alert, friends, he's not coming back.
He's not coming back, but that's multiple islands do this, and it's to pray for the return of cargo. And the name John Frum, they believe it's simple John from America.
So that's John from America then.
Yes, John from America. That's why it's called the cult of John Frum. So I just thought that was interesting. I'd never heard of it. And that's the military tie-in for that whole topic. And in the military, we all eat shit in our own way, don't we?
We very much do. And about every 2 years or so, or 2 or 3 years, I'll fall into this rabbit hole where I'll look at indigenous people from different areas of the world. And it is fascinating, like that people still live that way. Like whether you're talking about in the Amazon where they are completely isolated and things like that, or some of those smaller islands in the South Pacific where you're just like, man, I wonder what life would be like there, because you have all of these modern complications, but then you have things like, oh, if you get strep throat, you're not going to die from it here.
Yeah.
Too.
It's a little bit of a give and take.
It is.
Such things.
It is.
Truly
All right,
is.
let's move on to round number 2. We're going to talk a little bit about some baby formula because lots of mamas and daddies all across the country are finding it harder and harder to find some of the baby products. Not just baby products, but a lot of things. But formula has really taken the news by storm lately, right, Kate?
Yeah, definitely. And this affects military bases. The commissary will be reading for them at some point in this section. But there's shortages on everything. This is one of the only things where somebody could be malnourished, or, I doubt it would get to I want to say, I doubt it would get to the point where like a baby would die, but malnutrition, like that's a real thing that is happening right now because people cannot find formula. It's insane.
And you're probably not going to die if your baby is like, they're going to be fine if your baby is like one of the babies that it's on very regular generic type of formulas. But there's lots of babies out there and lots of little human beings that are required to have very particular,
very specific, very special formulas. And even the stress of thinking like, oh my God, where am I going to get the next can from? We had that a couple times. We had to switch formula, and that was really stressful for us. Like there was never any doubt that I'd be able to find something somewhere, but that I even had the luxury to go looking for it in multiple stores at the time. That's a luxury too that most people don't realize, right? Babies and their well-being have never been much of a priority in the US, but an alarming shortage of infant formula and the lack of a national mobilization to keep babies fed provides a new measure of how deeply that influence runs. Formula has been in short supply since the early days of the COVID pandemic. Back then, customers who could afford it stockpiled it to keep their trips limited from going like, I don't want to have to keep going out a bunch, so I'm going to buy a bunch at once. And that started a problem right off the bat. And people were hoarding all sorts of stuff back then. A manufacturing and delivery cycle that takes between 12 to 16 weeks start to finish could no longer keep pace because workers couldn't get in to make the like all sorts of stuff. And then freight delays held up crucial ingredients. Like many other companies, formula manufacturers struggled with labor shortages. And as 2021 turned to 2022, a spate of severe winter storms slowed deliveries and products to store shelves. Then the worst blow came in February when Abbott Nutrition recalled formula made in its Sturgis, Michigan plant. 2 babies who drank formula from that plant died of bacterial infections, and others were hospitalized. And worth noting here, the report that came out after this from the government, there are reports that I have the tweet somewhere. They knew that their equipment was old and faulty. They knew that bacteria was getting in, and they found communications between the workers there that when the FDA came in to do their annual check, that the communications, oh God, they're getting close to the area that has the problem. Oh God, I can't believe they didn't find it. Oh my God. Like they knew.
And it's so bizarre that this is fucking babies, dude. Like this isn't somebody who could, like a 40-year-old man that could be like, you know what? My fucking stomach's hurting. Like this is a baby formula. They can't tell you if it's messed up.
Yeah. And the crazy thing was this woman looked into it. She wrote, so the origin of the baby formula apocalypse was Abbott management's refusal to repair dilapidated and failure-prone drying machines, turning the plant into a petri dish for coronabacteria. And basically, as they were doing that and neglecting their equipment, they spent $5.75 billion on stock buybacks and stuff like that. So it was just pure greed, letting one thing go by the wayside as they wrecked in, and babies died from this. Let's see here, pull the sheet back up. So anyway, for Abbott to face such a shutdown is significant given the role it plays in the highly concentrated US formula market. In 2008, 3 companies made up 98% of the formula America bought. That's a huge monopoly. Abbott alone accounted for 43% of that market. So imagine what happens if one of them goes down with something like that. That cuts out almost like half. They made 43%. Half of America's formula is gone. Formula manufacturers' iron grip on the market exacerbates supply disruptions. And then problems we've seen with the supply chain made it even worse. As of 2018, there's only 4 companies now, and they control basically the entire US market. Keep in mind that baby formula is mostly dehydrated cow's milk, vitamins, and a ton of sugar, yet somehow it's like very cheap to make, like insanely cheap. Yet it somehow costs at least $150 to $428 a month, people estimate, high enough to sustain a mass crime ring even before the price jumped 18% over the last year. So when I first started buying formula, and I thought I was going to be solely breastfeeding and pumping. I thought, I'm not going to need it. I needed it to feed my son right from the get-go. I needed it the entire way through to supplement, and he would have not been healthy without it. Like I needed to rely on it.
Which is exactly why dudes and people on the internet who are commenting things like, oh, you could just breastfeed or give them cow's milk and things like that. The amount of deaths that happen for infants and babies and young toddlers based on malnutrition before formula was really instituted as a technological advance. Like before you could do, babies died all the time from malnourishment. And now it's way more rare because mothers don't have to just provide the milk constantly. There's other ways to go about it. If you aren't, like, plenty of women don't produce that much milk enough to be sustaining.
And breastfeeding is so, I feel like, because I saw one of the comments I posted just innocently asking folks in the military, do you know anyone having trouble finding baby formula? Right away, the first response I got, just use breast milk or cow milk. Stop crying so much, from some fucking idiot. And it's like, you have no idea how much, like, my breastfeeding journey, I had no idea. It was so painful. It was so difficult. If I had wanted to, when I went back to work, pump full time to give him enough to survive, I would have just sat in the room all day, pumping all day. I could never have made enough. Like, formula is so crucial. Mm-hmm. It is so wildly crucial. So anyway, on February 28th, Abbott widened their voluntary recall, which made things even worse. By the week of April 24th, the amount of formula available on shelves across the country was 40% below normal levels. Like 40% of formula was gone. To add insult to injury, being done to babies and their frantic parents. And then you're like, I had a guy respond saying, like, I feel guilty, but I started stockpiling for my own baby because the thought of your baby not being able to eat. And like, I know, he's like, I know that's bad. I know that makes it
way
worse.
More important than toilet paper.
Way more. It's way different than the toilet paper argument. Like it's
like, you get a squirt gun and you'll be fine without toilet paper. You can't do that with a baby's milk.
Your parent influence kicks in and it's like, oh my God, I better buy a bunch because I need my kid to be, and especially, you're right, chaps, if it's like unique formula
or people that you care about. I told you whenever I saw the tweet, like, I'm going on base tomorrow. If you need some, let me know. Yeah. Like, I'll go get you some.
The news, by the way, the news came in late April as this crisis was hitting, that a whistleblower had contacted the FDA with concerns about Abbott's plant way back in October, and that the FDA hadn't interviewed the whistleblower until December or inspected the plant until January. So all that was entirely preventable, by the way. This isn't a matter of families being unable to find their preferred brand of pureed peas. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that 84% of babies are breastfed at some point, but almost 3/4 of U.S. infants will need formula by the time they're 6 months old. That's almost all babies need it. Even babies who are breastfed successfully might need extra help in the beginning, blah, blah, blah. I already talked about that with me. For families with unfussy little eaters, a shortage of one product might be a mere annoyance. Like, I know when we couldn't find the stuff he used anymore because of the recall and we had to switch, he was rejecting his bottles and not eating because he wasn't used to it. And he didn't, like, it is so hard to switch stuff up on babies when they're used to something too. So that fucks people up. Circumstances are just really dire, especially for those who need a specific brand. I had a friend from high school who was posting on Facebook, his daughter has special needs. They needed a specific kind. And I mean, none of my friend group had talked to this guy for like a decade. And he's like, I'm begging all of you, all my old high school friends, wherever you live, like, please look for this brand and please, we'll pay you to ship it to us. We'll pay you double. We're so desperate. Our daughter needs it. And like, all my old high school friends went above and beyond finding this guy whatever they could and sending it to him for his daughter. It's like, holy shit. Like,
and I know this is an insanely important topic, but I can't help but think about some Navy dudes that are going to be sitting at the barracks, like in the smoke pit, and be like, you guys hear about this fucking formula shortage? This shit's fucking wild.
I know. Sorry to our regular listeners too, but like this,
I'm like, you're like, this is going to be crazy interesting. And it is, but I have to imagine our normal listeners that are like, this doesn't have anything to do with dick jokes. It has zero to do with foreign policy.
It's a lot about boobs though, right?
True.
Boobs.
True. If you're a young buck and listening, like, this doesn't affect me at all, just think about all these nipples. And by the way, for those that are listening that don't have any kids on the way or not thinking about having kids, I've been watching a lot of videos. Did you know the perfect shade of lip gloss for people is actually the color of their nipples? Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Except so if you want to know, just get one of those testers, those color testers that I'm sure you can get from Amazon. Test that bad boy out. Head over to L'Oreal, put in the promo code ZBT, and you're going to get the best fucking lip gloss nipple shade you've ever had.
Yeah, or just go to Home Depot paint section and just hold them up to your nipples. Just see, just match and find.
And if you don't feel comfortable showing your nipples to Hank at Home Depot in the paint section, just take those paint samples are free, my friends. You could even take them to the bathroom and just get in the mirror, and the lighting in there, because it's fluorescent in nature, it's wonderful to be able to tell you what your nipple pigmentation is.
Yeah, experiment a little bit. Get weird with it. Mm-hmm. Right. There's the tie-in and also, chaps, you wildly underestimate the amount of guys sitting in the barracks who have kids running around out there. They might not know it. True. But it is important. Mm-hmm. Representative Rosa DeLauro of Connecticut, the chair of the House Appropriations Committee, and the person who revealed the whistleblower report, sounded a note of fury. Parents shouldn't have to pay a price because Abbott has a contaminated product. She also invoked the possibility of using and this is what I saw people talking about online that got me searching. I'd never heard of it. The possibility of using the Defense Production Act to get more formula in the pipeline. If there was a shortage,
the same act that they were going to incorporate during the beginning of COVID for like N95 masks and things like that, and respirators, they could do it in a case that would cause a national emergency if you don't have enough. So that's how that's how baby formula would fall underneath that category.
Right. And basically the government goes to these businesses and helps them go into overdrive producing this stuff for people, so things that are essential items.
And they help figure out like the logistical breakdowns and where the problems are going to be at and how to overcome some of these adversities.
Yeah. She said, if there was a shortage, why weren't we in the business of making sure that wasn't happening? What did we do in times of crisis in the Second World War and so forth? We produced what we needed to produce. So she's saying we've invoked this act before and it worked. Why the fuck aren't we doing it now when there's kids' lives at stake? That's not an exaggeration. Another potential solution to avoid future shortages, suggested by the office of Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio, and his constituents include the families of 2 of the babies who died, would be for the FDA to adopt a monitoring system for formula that an agency task force recommended way back in 2019. Let's keep an eye on this ahead of time. This is a truly essential item, so that when supply chain issues come up, whether it's lack of aluminum for packaging or spiking prices or whatever, we can get ahead of it before the problem kicks in. That sounds so smart. Hey, let's just look ahead and make sure it doesn't happen. But none of this will help parents right now who desperately need to feed their children and are spending days driving to multiple stores or obsessively monitoring online stock alerts. I had a guy respond to that. I got a lot of responses saying his wife went to 5 stores the other day and could not find the formula she needed for her kid. Most of it now is locked up. I went to the grocery store over the weekend. All our formula was locked up and you could only take 4, because the other problem is that now that assholes see how desperate people are and that they'll pay anything for it, they're buying in bulk and then they're reselling it at a way higher value online to desperate parents, which is, I say, ticket to hell for you. If that's what you're doing, you're a piece of shit. But anyway, the consequences are terrifying, and the companies are sending a clear message you're on your own. So there you have it. But the tie-in here too, commissaries not immune from it. They're also facing this problem. The military exchanges have a limit of 5 units per baby per purchase. So you also can't get too much there. Overseas families, they feel anxious because they can't really read the labels and instructions if they go to the German store. So they have to get on base. People were responding to me from bases across the country saying our PX is actually okay right now. So it sounds like a lot of the bases are still doing pretty good, but they are definitely feeling the high demand, and their online store too. In recent check of the Navy Exchange, there were 24 options for infant formula brands. Only 1 was available for purchase.
Yikes.
Which is crazy. Finally, people are saying people are starting to make homemade formulas. They're finding recipes online. They're so desperate. Very dangerous. Don't do it. They're watering down and diluting their formula for their kids. That's also dangerous. Don't do it. So all sorts of crazy stuff happening. But
one guy was like, I was raised in the 50s and we had a formula shortage and we didn't have anything like that back in Iowa. So my family basically made me survive by having corn syrup and heavy cream that was mixed together. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Why are you advocating for that? What? Figure out the actual problem with solutions so we're not giving our kids corn syrup and fucking heavy cream whenever they're little. That doesn't seem like the best idea at all. Before we move on, I want to point out the difference between Katie moms and Katie not moms is stark. There is no shot.
Am I so
3 years
annoying?
ago,
I don't know.
This story even blips on your radar, and now you're like locked in. And we just got a glimpse inside the mind of Kate too. Once she gets passionate about something, she's going to learn everything in the world about that subject.
Yeah. Was that the worst round ever? I don't know. I can't tell because it is funny you say that. Like, I never gave a fuck about whether moms had access to changing tables in bars and restaurants before, and dads should have it too, because they should equally be doing that shit. But once it's happening to you, once something that suddenly you care.
Yeah.
And that's for sure 100% me. I probably selfishly and shittily would not.
And I don't think it's selfishly. I think it's the human condition where you don't care about things that don't affect you because you have so many things in your life that do affect you that you're also worried about. So if it's not on your radar, why bring things into your radar that's not going to affect you? Like, that's just kind of what people do. All right.
This last thing I would say, if you are a leader, if you're like a NCO, whatever, listening to this, I would talk to everyone in your command and make sure everybody's good, that everybody is getting the formula they need for their families at home and stuff. Like, talk to your troops and make sure that this isn't a problem for them, because sounds like in some areas it very well could be. So,
and I've seen a lot of videos online circulating that men do have the ability to have breast milk, like if you start it. So maybe some of these dudes could step up and volunteer to be a wet nurse.
Did you know, say I didn't have a kid, there's I think it's pills and hormones and stuff I could take. And if you start pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping, you can just start making breast milk. You don't have to have a baby.
Dudes could do it too.
So start making breast milk.
Cisgender dudes can do it.
Yeah. Start making breast milk. This is a crazy note. I stopped breastfeeding 3 or 4 months ago now, completely. My left boob, I could still do a little squirt around dogs with it. How gross is that? I shouldn't have said that out loud just now. As I'm saying it, I'm regretting saying it.
BetterHelp can help you in all kinds of different scenarios. Life can be overwhelming and many people are burned out without even knowing about it. Symptoms can include lack of motivation, feeling helpless or trapped, detached, fatigue, and so much more. I know that everybody that's a host on this show has felt down in the dumps or felt a little embarrassed, like Kate's
or a little weird
right now. If you say something weird on a microphone or at a meeting, don't beat yourself up about it for weeks. Talk to somebody. You can talk to our good friends at BetterHelp, because we associate burnout with work, but that's not the only cause. Any of our roles in life can cause us to feel a little burned out, and BetterHelp Online Therapy wants to remind you to prioritize yourself. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp and Zero Block 30's listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/0. That's BetterHelp.com/0. Again, it's a much more affordable version than in-person therapy. You can give it a try, and they'll talk to you online through video chats, on the phone, text messaging, basically whatever mode of communication you want to use, they will do that as well. That's at betterhelp.com with the promo code 0. Let's move on to round number 3. This one comes to us from Yahoo, and it says that a Kentucky couple who ran a marathon with their 6-year-old son say they are being investigated by CPS, which is the Child Protective Services. YouTubers Ben and Cammie Crawford, who have 6 children, announced in an Instagram post that CPS showed up at their home on Saturday. They said, someone reported that we dragged Rainer after mile 13 across the finish line, pulling him against his will, the Crawfords wrote. Our hours of footage reveal a different story, that Rainer is a young human who was very determined to finish and was never dragged once throughout the entire 26.2 mile course. So let's just break that down. One, a 6-year-old running 26 miles is legitimate insanity.
It really truly is. And them saying they never dragged him once, what started this whole thing was an Olympic runner who ran the race, I guess, he tweeted what he saw, which was every after mile, whatever, every however long he ran, the kid would start crying and they'd start bribing him with Pringles chips. They'd say, come on, we'll give you Pringles if you keep going, blah, blah, blah. That took the family. Guess how long it took them to finish the marathon? It's probably the story, but
I just saw it. The little boy completed the Flying Pig Marathon at Cincinnati, Ohio in 8 hours and 35 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, getting a 6-year-old to clean their room and staying on task for 10 minutes is like a feat of God. Like, having the ability to do this for 8 hours is so long for these kids, so long for a 6-year-old.
Yeah, and the Crawfords acknowledged that he was crying and struggling physically towards the end. And then they said they asked him numerous times if he wanted to stop, and he was very clear that it was his preference to continue. After having looked at this family's social media and all their stuff, I'm down to do some wild speculation here. I would speculate that it was because he was terrified of his parents and that he felt like he probably didn't have another choice. I was looking through their Instagram feed. They made him train for this. Of course, they made the whole family, all their kids. There was also like a 12-year-old and whatever trained for this. And in several photos, they didn't even hide it. The kid is crying and looks distressed and upset as they're like making him run. And one of the captions is even like, Rainer told us he was too hot today. It was too hot out, but you got to keep whatever. And it was like, what the fuck, dude?
The truth of the matter is you absolutely don't. That Olympic runner that Kate was talking about said, quote, I don't know who needs to hear this, but a 6-year-old cannot fathom what a marathon will do to them physically. A 6-year-old does not understand what embracing misery is. A 6-year-old who is, quote, struggling physically does not realize that they have the right to stop and that they should stop.
Right. Yeah. Ben Crawford defended their decision to let the little boy run the race, telling Today parents on Wednesday, some of the kids have been having emotional breakdowns because of all the hate and judgment from people declaring they shouldn't be allowed to run and fear from CPS coming to our house. First of all, this was, even though they're getting hate, this was the best possible outcome for the Crawford parents because they're getting attention and that's what they want. I saw another post where somebody was like, well, how much are you guys making off YouTube right now before the race? And he's like, we're only making like $10 a video. But that's going to go up to at least 60 after we do this marathon thing. Like they are doing this to make money off their kids on YouTube. It's sick.
Psychotic.
Performance coach Steve Magnus, who wrote The Science of Running, agrees. He said, no good comes out of a child that young running for 8+ hours. It's dangerous physically and psychologically. Kids want to be loved. They'll endure crazy things for mom and dad's approval. And that's what I meant when I said that kid didn't think he could stop. When they're like, we asked him if he wanted to stop. If your parents are making you run a fucking marathon, odds are good you're going to feel like they don't love you if you stop. Like, there's no way. Stop pressuring your kids to live out your dreams. Magnus told Today parents that there's not really good research on how activities like a marathon affect a child's body.
Yeah, because a majority of parents throughout human history have enough common sense not to make their child who's 6 years old run a fucking marathon. Like, that's the reason why if there's not a lot of research in 2022 about a physical activity revolving around a child, it's because that has been dictated throughout history to be fucked up. Like, this is even at a time when people were spanking their kids with sticks that they got off of trees, spanking their kids with belts that had embroidered names on them that would get stuck on their legs and shit like that. Even those parents were not being like, go run 26 miles.
Yeah, it's just insane to me. The more I looked into this family, the more I felt terrible for the kids. They were also the first family to hike the Appalachian Trail together. That was their first big stunt.
Oh, well, if they'd done that, it's kind of pathetic. They're only getting $10 a video.
$10 a video. I know.
All that effort of doing the fucking Appalachian Trail. No thanks.
But they did this creepy post where they're like, here's all of our fat and schlubby bodies before. And it's them standing there with their 8 kids and they have their daughters in like little sports bras and stuff. So everyone can see how out of shape they all are. And then it's like, and here's us after the Appalachian Trail. And it's the family all like stripped down again.
That's fine to do to a Marine battalion. It's not fine to do to children.
Right. That's just, but God forbid some hardo staff sergeant sees this story on the next hike and they're like, there's a 6-year-old who just finished a fucking marathon.
Oh, I would use that.
You can't do 3 miles.
You're absolutely right.
PFC.
Hey there, fucking news. Winner. I know you got Dr. Pepper and your fucking Camelback. Why in the hell are you not able to run 3 damn miles when I got a 6-year-old right here? And in fact, I used to do things like that.
I know you did.
Marines.
I know.
When Kelsey was like 4 years old, his name was Pendleton, was his last name, Matthew Pendleton. He came to me in Okinawa. And when he got there, he had been in the Marine Corps for probably like 3.5, 4 years. And when he got to me, he was not able to do a single pull-up. The only time I've ever seen a male Marine not be able to do one, like not one. 3 is the very minimum, but you rarely even see people who can't, like anything less than 8 or 9 gets you damn near shamed in the Marine Corps. He couldn't do one. I brought in Kelsey to the kennels, and I would never do this now, would not advocate for people to do this. I put Kelsey on the bar at like 3.5, 4 years old, and Kelsey could do like 4 pull-ups. And I got Kelsey down and had one of the other Marines take her away. And I was like, are you telling me that this 3.5-year-old redheaded toddler can do 3.5 pull-ups and you're a United States Marine and you cannot? And then I actually had him right.
Then I had her run a marathon, right?
This part is going to be the part that gets you really upset, Kate.
Oh, no. Oh, God. Okay.
I had him write our commanding officer and asked if he had permission to do the flex arm hang instead of pull-ups on the PFT. Let's move on to round number 4. We're going to interview Alex Horton, who's with the Washington Post, about his time that he spent in the last few months in Ukraine. Here he is. All right, now at 0:30, we are privileged to have one of the reporters that covers military and national security with the Washington Post. He's been there for 5 years, but before that, he was at other outlets. Obviously, you don't just start at the Washington Post, but he's been with like Stars and Stripes and things like that. But he's also an Army infantry bubba as well, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So we have Alex Horton on the show. He just spent some time on the ground in Ukraine. I think that gives us a very, gives you a different feel. Like, it's amazing what you experience on the ground. And then when you read about the coverage after you leave an area, you're like, wait, that's not kind of my experience. Some of the things happen, but some of the things aren't that way. I want to get into your experience. And first of all, just from like a human interest standpoint, when you guys get told that you're going to go cover this, is it something like you're jockeying for that position, or the email comes like, hey, we need you in Ukraine? For somebody like you, how does that work out?
Yeah, I think we're a large newsroom, so there's definitely a lot of staff on our foreign desk. I'm on the national security desk, so there's a lot of cross pollination, but typically there's some foreign assignments. But in this case, it was a voluntary basis. And I had been to Ukraine late January through like 3 days before the invasion in February. So this was my second rotation, and of course a lot different. But yeah, I just said, hey, I'm back. Did some other stories, and whenever you'd like to have someone else go in, I'd like to. And a few days later, they said, okay, well, on Sunday, can you jump on a plane?
And could you talk a little bit about the difference of how people were, obviously whenever you were going in February for the buildup, was there a lot of tensions on the ground? Was that kind of palpable when you were there in February?
I really don't think so. Much to my really concern once the invasion started after I left. We went up to Chernihiv in early February, and the first story I did on that first rotation was predicated on, here's this northern city that's the closest major hub and a big city right in the invasion path if they come through Belarus and Russia. And we had to really work hard to find people who took it seriously. We profiled a woman, one of the first people we learned that was really taking it to heart, and she had a go bag and she had a plan to get out west with her family. So it turned out her husband was in the military, and also she had lived in the east in the Donetsk area in 2014. So she fled then. So she had a really kind of a visceral experience with the war that I think a lot of people, in Western Ukraine and Northern Ukraine never had. So if you remember at that time, President Zelensky was saying, this is overhyped. The U.S. is, fear mongering that nothing's going to happen. And I think a lot of Ukrainians felt that way the further west you go from the border. And the less connection you had to the war that was already ongoing since 2014, I think you probably took it less seriously. So when all that stuff happened and Chernihiv got steamrolled and got bombarded, for weeks, I worried about people I met there that, essentially just brushed it off.
Has there been much reporting about if you think Zelensky's fears there were authentic, or if he was trying to, I hate to draw the distinction, but kind of like when President Trump was really downplaying coronavirus at the onset here, where you don't want widespread panic. Do you feel like he had the intel that this is going to happen, but he was doing it kind of to calm fears of the Ukrainians?
I really can't speak to that because I don't know what the intel picture was for Ukraine or, frankly for the U.S. But, we were learning through those declassified briefings on the U.S. side that they did take it seriously, and they were seeing those indications. They saw the units, that all the ones necessary for combined arms, all the logistic pieces were coming together in the rhythm you would expect for an invasion and not exercises. So I think there were kind of pockets of people taking it seriously across the West and NATO and the US. And I think probably there had to be some folks that, were contingency planning on the Ukrainian side. But I think the public face of Zelensky and others was trying not to have people panic, not to have, a Kabul moment where everyone fled and freaked out and, the leadership in the military vanished.
Was there anything there on your second? Was there anything there on your second tour that when you got on the ground, you were like, because, like for me, for instance, I'm from Florida originally. I don't go to Florida that often. So when I go back after like 10 years, you can look around and be like, oh my God, things are so different. This Burger King's no longer here, or whatever. Just in that short period of time from beginning of February to April and the end of April, was there anything that stuck out to you that you saw that you're like, holy shit, everything seems to be completely different now?
Yeah. I mean, it was, even though there were, much fewer people, this time around, people who had evacuated or gone into Poland or moved out of Kiev. When I drove in from Lviv to Kiev that first day back, I mean, it was bumper to bumper traffic for people who were returning. That was after the Russians had withdrew from the area. And, so there was a ton of traffic, but a lot of it was traffic of people who were just going to their homes and taking stuff and bringing it back with them. There didn't seem to be a lot of people staying. So, Kiev is a very modern, very vibrant European city. So to see it with like, one out of every two shops closed, streets empty, hedgehogs and tank traps in the streets, checkpoints that you'd see like in Afghanistan, those were the things that were kind of jarring when I rolled back in there. And, of course, seeing all the destroyed Russian tanks and all that, and some of the bombed out buildings was a big surprise. But I think in terms of like the sentiment of people, like they were still the cool, calm, collected, like Ukrainians that I knew beforehand. Like Ukrainians are like the meme lords of Europe. Like they joke around a lot. They come up with, really, they have a lot of double entendres. They're just really kind of funny people.
I
kind of
noticed that whenever there's been leaked videos or GoPro type videos of their Ukrainian soldiers that could see Russians from a distance and like talking about it, the conversations sound very much like the Marines that I've worked with, where it's like, oh, I'm about to fuck this dude up. We're about to put this missile up somebody's ass. Like, and you're like, I recognize that like troops everywhere, essentially troops everywhere. And they seem pretty fearless. And some of the reporting that you've done as you've been on the ground, it is kind of jarring like this to see the headlines about the differences in types of war. One of those stories dealt with poisonous darts that were coming into a town. Can you kind of tell us what that was about?
Yeah. They weren't poisonous, but they were, just a different kind of, for lack of a better term, shrapnel that artillery and tank rounds can throw up. They're called flechettes, and there's the U.S. use of them in rockets on helicopters. But generally, I mean, they're instead of packed shrapnel, it's these little kind of arrows that are like this long. These were about 3 centimeters long, and they disperse. I think the tank shells and the artillery shells shoot about 6,000 or 7,000 of these.
Wow.
So they're meant for like an air burst of like troops out in the open, like a formation out there, or just to like if some folks are like under coverage of foliage, then that's a great way just to pepper the area. So yeah, I was just in Bucha where all the killings happened out in the street and where the bodies were just left for Ukrainians to bury in mass graves. I was just talking to this woman about what was going on in the area, and she had like this pile of what looked like nails on her ledge, and I walked up to it. I was like, "This is a flechette," and I asked her about it, and she said, "Oh yeah, they're like in my car, they're all over my yard, they're in the street." And we walked out there in the street, and sure enough, there's just flechettes all around. So yeah, we did a story about that because they're not typically found in a lot of battlefield anymore. It's a World War I weapon. They use World War II. They saw a lot of use in Vietnam, but they kind of fell out of favor in recent conflicts. So it was kind of a surprise to see them out there.
Yeah, and I think that clarification really goes to my next question, because it is difficult, even for a show like ours. Like, we try to be as in tune with what's going on as possible, reading different sources, reading different news articles. When you're actually on the ground and you're dealing with two different militaries that are both using propaganda so extensively, how difficult is it for you as a journalist to really vet and trust what you're putting in print for the Washington Post is accurate? Is it much more difficult here than your experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we just kind of use the same rules, right? Like, we try to get comments, when I interview military officials, whether in the U.S. or in Ukraine, I always ask for on the record if we can do it, and if it's on background, they don't want to use their name, then, they have to tell us the reason why. So I just apply the same standards that I would if I just talked to the Pentagon or talked to anyone in CENTCOM, for instance, and apply the same, skepticism for what they say, because, everyone has a role to play. And when you're talking to someone in public affairs, they are incentivized to minimize a bad story and accentuate the good stories. And, I think you're just talking to that as a reporter. So it doesn't matter where you are, you try to apply the same standard.
And is there anything that you're seeing that's being kind of underreported now that is really piquing your interest in things that you're working on about what's happening in Ukraine?
Yeah, I mean, I think the artillery fight is really interesting. I think Ukraine as a government, as a military, can do a lot better about allowing, frontline access. A lot of it is like sort of ad hoc, but they are very much constraining the message there. They have media laws that restrict your ability to report. Some of it's OPSEC driven, and some of it is, we don't want you to show up at the scene of a missile strike in Kiev, for instance, and report on the BDA. They don't want that. But you have to probably assume the Russians are not watching CNN to get their BDA memo out. So it's a little bit kind of ham-fisted and heavy-handed at times. So I think they can do a better job opening up and being responsive, but they're also in this fight for survival. So, I can appreciate the idea to sort of prioritize what their military is up to.
And even we do that. Like, we've had a lot more restrictions than we had in decades past about the level of troop numbers and things like that. So I'm sure reporters like yourself are very used to dealing with departments of defense that are wanting to keep a tight lid on all information that comes out, or how it's framed, at least.
Right. Yeah. And I think in Eastern Europe, especially, there's still, the Ukraine is different from, the Russian roots and the Soviet Union, but they still have like that they don't have a really long history of being like media friendly, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's just not culturally imbued to them. And not that the US is, tremendously different, but at least it's enshrined in the Bill of Rights. But I think there's still some kind of ways to go and growth there that I think is happening, but there's just not a whole lot of that kind of cultural and social kind of foundation of dealing with the press, seeing them as a different kind of player in the space. I think they blur the lines between government, the public and media in a way that, is sometimes unhelpful for us.
And when you have stories that are popping up and going insanely viral, like the woman who said that she was putting sunflower seeds in the pockets, the Ghost of Kiev, Snake Island, obviously, when you have stories like that are popping off on the international community, and in the media business that those kind of stories are definitely going to drive clicks, how difficult is it for you to keep your eye on the ball and not kind of chase these ghost leads that are everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can see it. Like, once you know how to look for it, you can see the contextual parts of it, and like the COIA parts of, like, was when Snake Island happened and they said, Russian warship, go fuck yourself. And then the story initially was, and then they all died, right? Yeah. So it was sort of like this sort of too perfect metaphor, right? But
you can see Tom Hanks directing it. Like,
yeah. I mean, it was just like it was too cute by half, and but that initial sort of wave of viral news was because Zelensky said it, if I remember right.
right.
And then there was that walk back of like, okay, they weren't killed, they were captured, and the guy who said it, right, he survived, and he got an award for that. So yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at those stories, at least us and others, we try to put the attribution out there, just so it's like, hey, we didn't just come up with this on our own; it was someone else. That tends to help in these situations where it's very fluid, and people think maybe we should just run with this because a good story is better than a true story in some of these situations. Yeah, we have to be careful, especially the other thing you mentioned about the Ghost of Kiev, where it was funny because I think the Ukrainians recently said, well, of course he's not real, he's all of us, right? It was something like that, where it was just they meant it to be a metaphor the whole time, but they didn't quite get that message across to everyone, so people thought it was an actual person when it was just pilots, plural, and maybe not even that many air-to-air kills that we were initially led to believe.
And do you think that there's a big push within the DoD from people that you've talked to that, like, how long do you feel the DoD really anticipates this essentially proxy war now with, I mean, the amount of money that we are sending and President Biden authorizing $40 billion more just this morning to go over there, essentially. How long do you feel that people in the DoD are thinking this is going to last?
I mean, I think they've been so, what's the diplomatic way to put this? They've been so, they don't have a great batting average lately of predictions.
Right.
When it comes to
that was you searched for it, but that was a very diplomatic way to put it. They've
been
a while. Drastically wrong lately.
Yes, they've been. They have not had a great recent track record of correctly assessing the fight left in partners and in enemies, right? And that's especially sort of concerning when it's like, if Russia was the facing challenge for years, how did you get it so wrong that they didn't even know how to do combined arms, for instance, right? So it's not great. It's not great that they didn't have an assessment that, that the Afghan army was essentially a ghost formation that just vaporized in an instant. And a lot of their folks died trying to hold that ship together. They did terribly on that. So I think they're trying to get out of the prediction business, but I'd say it's open ended as long as there's a Ukraine and there's Russians in it. I think that probably I would just I'm just speculating. I haven't had these conversations, but as long as there's someone to fire these weapons, they're going to keep providing them. And how that looks like in a few months, right? Because there aren't new Stingers coming off the assembly line; those are done. Once those are out, they're out. Javelins, you can't just turn around and make more overnight. So there's going to come that inflection point when they said, okay, well, we've given enough javelins and we can't give any more because we need them, and other weapon systems too. I mean, they're going to run out of their pre-positioned stocks, in Europe. They're going to run out of, their other reserves. So that will be a more complicated question is we want to continue to help, but with what? So, I mean, that's why I think the alliance is an important part of this too, because they can help carry some of that burden. But I mean, who knows, right? Like, who knows if it's going to last 2 more months or 2 more years? I mean, I don't think anyone can make that prediction now.
And with that intel sharing that's happening all across the world, really, with NATO and then us obviously giving Ukrainians different types of intel, how do you balance and where do you find really the line? Because as soon as somebody posts an article that, for instance, whenever that we helped them how to target the ship that was sank, like whenever something like that, we help them, or we help them figure out where the generals are so the generals can be killed. How much do you have a responsibility for OPSEC versus informing the American public, and where do you draw that distinction?
And that's a tough question that when it comes up to that sensitivity, and sometimes depending on one's to have the conversation, they say, well, we really don't want you guys to say this because it could compromise some sort of either people gathering intelligence or the intelligence collection apparatus itself. And usually they make the case of it, harming national security. So yeah, there is that calculus you make of like, what's the public right to know about what, the U.S. military and intelligence community is doing in their name with billions of dollars in fighting a nuclear armed army. Yeah, you kind of want to know what's going on, and you don't want to be totally in the dark. So those are conversations that are had sometimes with the Pentagon, where they say there's negotiation is not quite the right word, but it's saying, okay, we feel like you're going to report this, but this is how it is, and then we can make calls.
And you probably could tell by talking at this point too, like what if you're showing them kind of what you have, and they're like, "Oh God," like I'm sure you can kind of get a sense like we really don't want you to post this. This is important,
right? Yeah, I mean, deep within the Pentagon is like this advanced hair splitting machine where they just try to kind of create as much daylight between what's happening and what their literal read of it is as possible. So that's some of their greatest minds are doing that kind of work, just to say, well, you're going to report this, but this is how it actually is. And, it's sort of like, is someone pissed on your leg and telling you it's rain kind of situation. And that happened with me in the Kabul drone strike, with the family of 10. That happened on August 29th, and on August 30th, I said, look, I talked to an EOD tech, here are points A, B, and C on why there wasn't a secondary explosion. So have you guys look at this evidence? Are you guys still confident? And then I had off the record chats with some of these folks, who tried their damnedest to wave us off of it. And, it was almost just like, it was a complete like rejection of common sense, and just like believing what your eyes are telling you. And they still just push through it, so that happens in some of these cases too, where they're so, the problem, I think, overall with the Pentagon is they're so incurious about what they are missing that sometimes that also plays a role in what they don't want you to talk about.
And so I'm sure as a journalist, that makes you want to push down that road even farther, right?
Yeah. When they say, "Oh no, you can't talk about that," I'm like, "Okay, pray tell." I want to hear more.
Oh, why?
So yeah. You put on your monocle, like, okay, it's interesting.
Well, keep it up, man. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Thanks to Alex for coming on. It's always fascinating whenever you have national security folks who are actually going to these places like Ukraine and Afghanistan at the end, which Alex was involved in that as well. And shout out to our friend Dan Lamoth and others who work at Washington Post that's been on, who are recently announced that they were receiving and getting the Pulitzer Prize for their work on Afghanistan in January 6th, which is pretty incredible for them professionally. But whenever you go there, I can't imagine how difficult it is to establish sources and information that you feel comfortable in publishing in places like the Washington Post or New York Times, who are supposed to be beacons of journalism. Like the ability to do that and feel comfortable enough with your work to be like, yes, this is beyond reproach. This is fine. It's accurate. It's good. I don't know if I'd ever have that good feeling ever.
Yeah, no, especially with the language barrier and all that stuff, like forget it. Unless you find the perfect fixer, which I've never been street smart like that. Like Donnie, he has all these crazy videos coming out from around the country and like around the world. And he finds these fixers that are like the perfect guys to help show him. Like, I wouldn't even know where to begin finding that guy.
Even when he went to Iraq recently, like if you haven't watched any of that,
he'll be on the show soon.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Donnie is a guy that works with us at Barstool, and he has lived in China for, I think, 4 or 5 years, but now he's living in Italy. But he recently did one of his tours. He's gone to the Balkans. He's gone to Africa. He's gone to, I think he went to Zimbabwe with Za. Like he went to, recently went to Iraq. And me being a guy that's been to Iraq, he reached out to me before he went and was telling me about some of the things that he was planning on doing. And me only knowing Iraq in the context of war and being a Marine there, when he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go down to Baghdad and go fishing and hang out at the market. In my brain, what? I'm like, are you?
I wouldn't do that if I were you, man. Yeah.
Like, yeah. Do you have QRF? Who's the fucking QRF? Who's Commander QRF today? Because if it's fucking Brad, he's a piece of shit. I wouldn't go out there. He's real lazy. But anyways, thanks to Alex for coming on the show. We appreciate his insights and the things that he's going over and risking life and limb to be able to bring back to the American people. I don't feel like people appreciate the foreign journalists enough and what they actually do to shed a light on situations like what's happening in Ukraine. All right, let's move on to round number 5. We're going to do a little bit of bear goofing. I always want...
Not really. It's not goofing.
Oh, no, not goofing at all.
No,
sorry. It is not.
no.
It's the least thing from goofing probably in the world.
Yeah, no, it's actually a very sad story.
Yeah,
very. Steve Bainon at military.com. A soldier has died in a bear attack during a training exercise at Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Alaska, the Army said Monday. It's unclear whether the soldier was equipped with bear spray or if the unit supplies the spray to all of its troops. A packing list for students at Alaska's Cold Weather Leaders course, the region's premier school for training soldiers to survive in the area, does not include bear spray. The Army said it was withholding the name of the soldier until their next of kin is notified, and state authorities are searching the area for the bear. In 2014, 2 soldiers were attacked by bears at that same base. An NCO with the Alaska National Guard suffered non-life-threatening injuries during a land nav course when he encountered a bear and her 2 cubs. The bear swatted at the soldier, bit him, then picked him up by the hip and threw him, according to Reuters. That same year, another NCO was attacked by a bear while on a run. She was thrown and pummeled by the bear several times while playing dead. That's one of those things that, like, what if scenario, because I go hiking I used to go hiking a fair amount. And one of the things was always like, what would I do if I stumble upon a bear? Like, some people say, oh, you just stand up and make a bear stance and growl, or, oh, you just whatever. And I feel like it's one of those things, until you're in that situation, you just have no fucking idea.
None. No, it would be so terrifying. Coming across not just bears, but any wild animal like a mountain lion, fucking in Florida, there's Florida panthers, rattlesnakes here. I'm constant, like I've said a million times, I really truly believe the only thing I'm actually scared of in the world is snakes. Every time I have to go lift up a pool float by my pool, I'm like, I don't know if there's a rattlesnake underneath there, because I live in South Texas, and the odds are that there's going to be another one on my property at some point. Every time I hear Baby Dale fucking barking over and over again, I'm like, has he got a rattlesnake? I go out there and listen as close as I can. Do I hear that? And hope not, because I don't want to be dealing with that shit. Wild animals, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's crazy. North New Jersey just had its first bear attack in like over 20 years or something like that. 3 college kids were out hiking. They saw a bear from a distance, and the last thing is a photo of a bear like 200 yards away. They all split and ran off into the woods, and the bear got one of them. But the friends all said, like, it's not like they went towards it. It's not like whatever. The bear picked up on them and just started coming. So it's crazy. According to a report from Alaska health officials, 68 people were hospitalized from bear attacks between 2000 and 2017. During that period, 10 people died. Bear attacks happen most frequently between June and September. I was looking on
those numbers aren't that bad.
Well, 68 is a lot.
But that's for
over
a 17-year
20 years
period. That's 4 a year.
Still, that's a lot. Still, I feel like for a state, that's a lot of bear attacks.
That's a huge state, though, with a lot of bears. I would have guessed it's more. I'm glad that it's not more. But
I'm guessing there's more close calls that are included in that.
It has to be more close calls. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, not diminishing the bear risk.
Yeah. On the Reddit page, it was our military where I was reading people's comments on this. Someone said, I don't know about you guys, but we run a lot of exercises with weapons, but without live ammo. That was probably the problem here too. It was a lot of people who are stationed in Alaska commenting on this, saying like, yeah, they put us like way out in the boonies sometimes. We have weapons, but we don't have any ammo. And this was also in a landfill area, apparently, where this happened. In grizzly bear country, especially near a landfill, you either need live ammo yourself, or you need a security detail, or you resign yourself to no longer being an apex predator with the risks that entails. An extra handful of guys who weren't part of the exercise and were just there for wildlife control would have been a good idea. Like up there, that's a good point. If you're not going to give the troops live ammo or bear spray, you better have like people on the perimeter looking over them and making sure that this shit does not happen. It's crazy. Someone else said, this is just the beginning of the investigation. The very first bullet point on the official Elmendorf bear safety rules states, carry bear spray, keep it handy, and know how to use it. But again, they're saying they don't know if Most
if
of them, it
it's
says
issued and things like
they
that.
say
like,
it's not issued apparently. So that's like a problem in itself. It's such a sad story. It's terrifying. And,
have you
thoughts
ever
and
been
prayers.
chased by any type of wild animal?
Um, oh, have I ever been chased by any type of wild animal? I mean, bees aren't animals, but I've been stung more times than I could count. I've been fucked up by every make and model of bee, wasp, paper wasp, yellow jackets,
Bumble?
Afghanistan, country, Bumble. I don't know if I've been chased by. Oh, I've been chased by bumblebees. One used to carpenter bees to live in my mailbox growing up. And my mom would be like, "Go get the mail," and I'd be like, "Oh God, I'm gonna counter that bee again, man. Fuck." Um, one time on a run when I was training for the marathon that I did, which entailed going on 2 jogs once. But I was living up in the Bronx and somebody it looked like a giant German Shepherd, started running along the fence and leapt up. Like it just barely did not get over the fence. And part of me was like, oh, fuck, what do I do if it gets over? Like, I'm fucked. Like, oh, holy shit. And I actually have pepper spray now that I keep on me when because I take the baby hiking and stuff, and I keep it on me. Not so much for like people, but in case like a wild dog or something comes up, and who knows. So
it's terrifying. Like I've had bees, even though I laughed, very sneaky, scary. Like when I was in high school, I lived in Pensacola, Florida, and it was always super hot, like at the end of the year, June timeframe. And everybody has like Powerades, Cokes, or whatever that you throw into the trash can. And it was like fountain drinks. So like you have all the different sugary sodas that are in there. Of course, all the bees are attracted to that. So they come. I tossed in this, like a book or something, into one of the trash cans. And there was a shit ton of bees at the bottom, and they just swarmed. And this is when I thought I was allergic to bees. I talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, when your mom made you believe you had an allergy to
so
that.
I was like, like screaming, running away. Another time, same time period, I was coming back from one of my buddy's house, and there was 2 streets, and in the middle of the street, there was like an adjoining street. So it was basically kind of shaped like an H, but the little dash in the middle of the H was a very short street, maybe 200 yards long. And I came around the corner. On the short street, there's absolutely no street lights at all. On the long streets, there was, because the short street was too short, didn't really need one. I was leaving his house a little bit later than I normally would have, and there was a Rottweiler that lived in the area. And me and this guy had been playing like catch and playing baseball and football, like catch throughout the day. I was bringing home my football. Thank God, because whenever I was coming around, this Rottweiler showed its teeth, started barking, and then immediately started running after me. And I was only in like the 9th or 10th grade, ran as fast as I possibly could, did this like Derek Jeter move where I come up and threw the ball as hard as I could. And it happened to hit the Rottweiler like right in the snout. And so then he was like, oh God. And he ran off the other way. And I got up to my porch, and like I could still see the dog running, and I just started crying. Like I was like, oh, I thought I was gonna get my shit eaten by this huge Rottweiler, and luckily I happened to, and I was still like super Christian mode, so I was like, ain't that just like the Lord protecting me with that football right there? My goodness gracious. Whew. Huh.
Well, saved rounds.
I don't really have any today. Oh wait, I do have one. McCartney. So McCartney, my youngest, is an absolute wild child and plays aggressively at recess. And their school is totally in like this kickball phase, and McCartney really wants to be a good kickball player. And
I remember those days. That was serious shit. 5th grade kickball. Fucking forget it.
3rd grade kickball here is pretty
There was like
intense.
almost like fights over it. And when I was like the most peaceful person ever, and I got into like verbal altercations with kids on the kick. Oh yeah, it's serious shit.
And McCartney's very competitive, so it was right there in the mix if any of the kids are getting after it. Came home with a huge strawberry on their leg from sliding into second, which I'm proud of. Like, if you're gonna hustle, you got to hustle, get down low, get into that damn base, don't get hit, things like that. Well, last night was the first nighttime swim that we wanted to do as a family after dinner time. We go out, me and Annalise gets in, and then I like video up to McCartney, and we're swimming, come on down. And McCartney's like, I have a big scratch and scab on my leg. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go swimming or not, if it's going to hurt, because it's still pretty fresh. I was like, well, why don't you give it a try? gets a bathing suit on, comes in, and standing on the steps of the pool and gets to the point where the chlorine hits it and stings really bad.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
and I'm sitting in there in the pool with like the little mini basketball and the mini football waiting for McCartney to play. And McCartney starts to like cry on the steps. And we're like, what's wrong? Like, my leg hurts so bad. Like, it stings. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to swim today. I think I have to sit out. And I'm like, well, that's okay. We'll just go tomorrow. The water's warm. It's supposed to be nice weather all week. And McCartney starts crying again. And my wife is like, what's wrong? Like, well, what is dad going to do in the pool? He's not going to have any fun without me. You know, like, who's he going to, mom doesn't want to play catch. What is dad going to do? His nighttime swim is not going to be fun.
He's
at all
alone in the pool.
Yeah, like, just felt so bad for me that I was missing out on playing catch. It was just the cutest thing in the world.
We were talking before the show, like when you're a little kid, like I remember a couple times my dad was helping me build like a sledding hill out front, and he slipped on the porch and he hurt his shin a little bit. And he's like, I'm fine. It's okay. But it like devastated me that my dad hurt himself, like doing something with me that I was crying. I was like, oh my God, there's something about feeling like your parents are sad or something when you're a kid that is so like, I don't know.
And it was just so unbelievably
so genuine.
Pure. Like, dad,
so pure.
Now that I can't swim, dad's night's fucking ruined.
Meanwhile, you're relaxing in the pool. You're like, thank God. Not thank God, but like,
I'm like, I'm going to go inside and make this cocktail that we'll talk about at the top of the show.
I promise. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
You're right. That is super sweet. That's really cute.
What about you? Save rounds?
No save rounds for me. I don't think. The One Bite pizza toy is finally up for sale, which is fun. If you want to get your kid a neat little Barstool toy, I believe it's the first toy on the Barstool store, which is fun. But it crinkles, but not too loud. It's
you don't
soft.
want a loud crinkle.
It's soft. It's non-toxic. Your kid can chew on it. They can squeeze it. They can play with it. They can whatever. But it's just a fun little toy. My guy really has enjoyed playing with it. So it's fun to see people buying it. Side note, I went to, because I've been sending them out to a couple people. So I went to the store, the Barstool store, to purchase it. And when you go on the Barstool store and you click on something like CBT gear, this little thing pops up that shows you like Tom from Kentucky just bought one. Oh, Cheryl from like Ontario just bought one. And as I clicked it, it popped up and said, Margaret from North Wildwood just purchased whatever. And I was like, oh, that's my Aunt Peggy's full name. Oh, she lives in North Wildwood. Party Peg. I caught it right as my Aunt Peggy. Party Peg, chicken parm Peg was buying a pizza toy.
Did you call her and make sure it was her?
I screenshot it real quick and I sent it, and she was like, yeah, it's me. I was like, oh, Party Peg.
I love that. I
just thought that was a funny coincidence or whatever. So she's a grandmama sending it to her grandkids. But anyway, and also we got ZBT gear. Don't forget, Barstool store. Like and subscribe to our YouTube if you don't mind.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure that people are watching now, unless they're pieces of shit, or subscribe to the YouTube. I will say, our guy Nick's not here. He just got kind of a promotion. He's going to be back next week, but he had some stuff to do today. His passion project is wrestling with Brandon Walker. If you like wrestling at all, like pro wrestling, I think Brandon Walker covers it better than anybody in the biz, and Nick loves it and does social media and does a great job as well. Go to their YouTube page. If they don't get to like 50,000 subscribers or something, they're getting canceled. So do Nikki a favor and go to wrestling and subscribe there, because he does not deserve to have that taken away. It's a great show.
RASSLIN.
Yep, just wrestling.
That's Ralph. Angles. Soup. Leaders. Enchilada. Soup.
Enchilada starts with an E, but that'll be fine. We'll be back here again next week. We'll see you then. Sound the retreat.